Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 98, Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. And my friends, it's going on this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got the #1 ranked flyweight in the world, Brandon Royval, defending his spot against the 16-0 Japanese phenom, Tatsuro Taira. Also on the card, we got some fun matchups between some vets. We got some up-and-comers, a lot to look forward to. So, my friends, without further ado, let's get down to business. Main event of the evening in the flyweight division. We got the #1 contender, Brandon Royval. He's 16-7, taking on Tatsuro Taira, who's 16-0. Currently, they got it. Tatsuro Taira minus 225. The comeback on Brandon Royval is plus 190. So, yeah, where do we begin? This is an amazing matchup, a hell of a fight. Firstly, this kid, Tatsuro Taira, 16-0 as a pro at flyweight, no less. Like, you don't just go undefeated in a division like flyweight, and he's done it. And, man, he put up the win streak necessary to get this opportunity against the #1 contender. And we're going to find out if right now, at 24 years of age, if Taira is ready to be the #1 contender and get a title shot in this division. And with his opponent, Brandon Raw Dog Royval, I mean, his nickname says it all. This guy is going to get right in your face. It doesn't need to be a clean fight. And I think this guy actually does better in 5-round fights. You know, he does train in Colorado. He's used to the altitude, the elevation, and he does better as fights progress. The thing about a guy like Brandon Royval is when you watch him fight, you're probably going to notice a lot of openings, you know, with his takedown defense, with his striking defense. But the thing about it is, if you don't grind out a guy like Royval, if you don't put away a guy like Royval, he is going to be in your face all night long. And I also want to say the kind of competition Royval has been fighting since he got into the UFC has only been top 10 guys, top 5 guys, former champions, current champions, and future champions at the time, right? Like, he's only lost to Brandon Morono and Alexandre Pantoja, the current champion and the former champion. That's literally the only people he's lost to. And he avenged that first Brandon Morono loss. You know, it was a kind of a TKO via injury. He goes out there and rematches him in Mexico with the elevation and everything. And, man, he goes out there and beats him over a 5-round duration, and he lands over 140 significant strikes in the process. So that's what you like to see, especially bouncing back from that title defeat. And it was only a couple months after that. And you'd think, like, a lot of guys, when they lose the opportunity to, you know, to win the belt, that's like a fighter's lifelong dream and goal, to be a champion. And a lot of times they don't come back looking the same. The most recent example I can think of is Chito Vera. Look how Chito Vera, you know, he got his ass beat against Sean, comes back kind of quick against Davison. And all of a sudden, Chito Vera, the man who's never been dropped before, Davison drops him. Davison makes him look like really bad. And there's so many more examples of that, of fighters coming off the title loss, not looking the same. Brandon Royval comes off the title loss. He looks even better and looks more confident, almost like that second Moreno fight was something reassuring for him to let him know that, hey, you really are the #1 guy. Because, like I said, when you look at Brandon Royval's strength of schedule, this guy makes his UFC debut on short notice against Tim Elliott, top 10 guy. He wins that via finish, by the way. This next fight, he finishes Kai Kara France, who's a top 5 guy. Then the Moreno and Pantoja fights, the first ones, he loses those. Then he fights Rogerio Bontorin, who at the time was a top 10 guy. Matt Schnell, who at the time was a top 10 guy. Mateus Nicola, who at the time was a top 10 guy. Pantoja, current champ. Brandon Moreno, former champ, and he wins that. So I'm just saying, like, you look at those names, that's a murderer's row that Royval's been through in the UFC. And then on the other side with Taira, now to Taira's credit, he came into the UFC. I mean, this guy was born in goddamn year 2000. So he's just a kid. He comes into the UFC at like 21, 22 years old. And they did have to kind of slow roll him a little bit. You know, his first fight, when you compare each of their first fight in the octagon, Tatsuro Taira's first opponent was Carlos Candelario. Did Carlos Candelario ever win a single UFC fight? No, he did not. Next fight was CJ Vergara, who's also on this card, tough kid. Then Jesus Aguilar, then Edgar Shirez, another tough kid, then Carlos Hernandez. Then he got his ranked opponent against Alex Perez. Now, let's talk about the Alex Perez fight, because a lot of people are discrediting Taira for that, saying it was a fluke injury, this and that. No, it was not a fluke injury. That injury was caused by Taira. Man, when Taira took Perez's back, and let me say this, Taira had to overcome some adversity in that fight because in that first round, there were moments where Perez was kind of boxing him up at times. And you look at the stats, it says that Perez outlanded him, but man, it seemed like it was just a matter of time in that fight because there's a certain physicality about this guy, Taira. He looked twice the size of Alex Perez, and it looked like what he landed was so much more impactful than what was coming back at him. But man, when he took the back of Perez in that second round, he locks that body triangle in, and one of his legs hooks the leg of Perez, knocks him down, injures him. I was like, God damn. Like, we can say fluke injury all we want, but like, when I think of fluke injuries, I think of like that Rakic versus Blachowicz fight, right? Where like Blachowicz kicks Rakic's left leg and then Rakic's right leg gives out. It's not even the leg he kicked. Whereas when you look at a result like Taira versus Perez, that was damage caused by Taira. You look at last week between Dolidze and Holland. People say that was a fluke injury. That was no fluke injury. Let me explain to you what happened. Holland gets taken out with ease by Dolidze. I mean, everyone said that Holland would have this huge striking advantage, and Holland didn't even let his hands go. He was just trying to kick and run. He felt the presence of Dolidze, and on one of those kicks, it got caught by Dolidze, instant takedown, and Holland tries to go for an armbar on Dolidze. Dolidze stacks him. That's when the rib injury happened. When he got stacked from going for that armbar, Dolidze easily passes, goes to mount, and smashes. So that injury was caused by Dolidze, just like the Taira and Perez injury was caused by Taira. So to me, Taira deserves this top 5 ranking. And I think that Taira is so good that one day he will challenge for a title. The thing is, when you look at these odds, like I said, minus 225 for Taira, plus 190 for Royval, they're saying that this 24-year-old kid's ready right now to fight for the belt. And that's where I have a little bit of hesitation. That's where I have a little bit of pause. You don't need to convince me that Taira is insanely talented, that he's a top 5 guy, that one day he will challenge for a title. But is it right now when he's 24? I mean, why can't it be when this kid's 27, 28? Like, it's okay to take that first L. Like, you remember when Bisping was 15-0 and then he finally fought Rashad, he stepped up in competition. He had to take his first step back too. There's nothing wrong with having to pay your dues. And Taira, I think he might have to pay his dues Saturday night. Listen, I know there's a lot of openings on Royval. I know that Royval gives up easy takedowns, that he gets hit a lot. He's been dropped in fights. But the thing about it is, Taira hasn't fought anyone that's truly tested him. The only time I can really recall of him being, really tested in a fight was the Edgar Chairez fight. Edgar Chairez dropped him. Edgar Chairez had a deep guillotine on him. Edgar Chairez is a tough dude. We're going to talk about the Clayton Carpenter fight later on this card, man. This dude, Edgar Chairez, he might not win every fight, but damn, he will fight every fight. Look at that Josh Van fight. So listen, Edgar Chairez gave Taira a test, but Taira hasn't had that true top 5 test. And the thing about Royval is, if you don't just grind this guy out, and this is a 5-round fight, guys. This is not a 3-round fight where in a 3-round fight, Taira can just lay on him for 2 rounds, coast the 3rd round, and you win the decision. That's not the case here, man. Let's say you do lay on him the first 2 rounds. You better be on your P's and Q's the next 3 rounds, rounds 3, 4, and 5, because that's when Royval comes alive. And I'm just tempted at plus 190 to roll the dice. Like, I can't confidently say that I think Royval is going to hand Taira his first L. Like last week, I was super confident on Buckley and Dolidze. This week, I'm not as confident, but what I do know is these odds are tempting, man. I can't front. These odds are very, very tempting on an unproven guy who's super talented. Like I said, Taira, I definitely think he's the future of the division. He's got intangibles. He's got size. He's well-rounded. He's good everywhere. Like, I like so much about him. But he's a 24-year-old kid. He hasn't tasted his own blood yet. He hasn't truly been cracked by a top 5 guy who's got the same hunger as him, who wants it as bad, who has seen everything there is to see in this division, and that's Brandon Royval. So listen, if Taira can get past this test right now, oh my God, like, you really are that guy. And I think he is going to be that guy down the line. I'm just not convinced he's that guy right now. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think that Taira is insanely talented. And he's going to go super far, but like, this is such a step up in competition, man. Like, Royval doesn't play games, man. Royval gets right in your face, pushes an insane pace, volume for days. He can scramble on the mat, and you start to show a guy like Raw Dog any kind of weakness, and he will go ahead and close the show, man. So yeah, all respect to Taira. I think he's got a great future. I think that one day he will be a champion, just not Saturday night. Oh, he's not fighting for a belt. What I'm saying is he's not going to be the number one contender Saturday night in my guesstimation. You never really know. But at these odds, I'm more tempted to take a small shot on Brandon Royval and see if he can set back the ultra talented Tatsuro Taira. So I'm going to go raw dog in the main event. Co-main event of the evening in the middleweight division. We got the vet, Brad Tavares. He's 20-9, taking on the Iron Turtle, Jun-Young Park, who's 17-6. Currently, they got it. Jun-Young Park minus 180. The comeback on Brad Tavares is plus 155. So shout out Brad Tavares, man. This guy's been in the UFC a long ass time, man. Like I think 11 plus years. And listen, man, he's got good kickboxing, very hard leg kicks, elite takedown defense. This guy can balance on one leg. He's been in there with everybody. You got to love Brad Tavares, man. What a true Hawaiian warrior. But on the other side with this kid, Jun-Young Park, man, he's been paying dues for a while now. For like an up-and-coming guy, he's already got 10 UFC fights, put up that 7-3 record. Man, as far as I'm concerned, he's 8-2 in the UFC. He did not lose that Muniz fight. When I rewatched it the other day, I was like, no fucking way they scored that for Muniz. I was shocked, dude. Like, I was like, no way. Like, because Jun-Young Park, he'd get taken down. I think it was the first round, right? He got taken down. And when he reversed the position, he full mounted Muniz, and he's landing some devastating elbows on Muniz. I think the second round, he kind of got grinded out a bit. But the third round, if I remember correctly, that first and third round, he put it on Muniz. And they gave Muniz the decision. I was like, oh my God. But I think the UFC kind of know that, like, hey, you did kind of get screwed there. That's why we're going to give you this co-main event against this ultra vet. And the thing is, man, y'all remember how I was talking about how I've been waiting a long time for Fares Yam's first UFC KO? I've been waiting a while for Iron Turtle's first UFC KO. And I think he's got a good opponent to do that with, against Brad Tavares. If you go back and you watch both of their fights against RoboCop, not that MMA math means anything. Both these guys got knocked out by RoboCop. But what I'm trying to say is, like, there was a big difference in how competitive those fights were. Like in the Tavares versus RoboCop fight, dude, RoboCop was walking down Tavares with zero respect, zero care. RoboCop's a guy who's been chinned more than once, and he had zero fear walking down Brad Tavares. And it was almost like he disrespected him, not like on a personal level, but in terms of his fighting skills. Like he gave zero you-know-whats about what Brad Tavares was throwing back at him. But then you look at the fight between RoboCop and Jun-Young Park. Dude, Jun-Young Park was this close to knocking out RoboCop, and then he gets caught. It was like, oh, man, it was super close. My only issue with Jun-Young Park is the physicality. I feel like this dude needs a new strength and conditioning program. But as far as the skills and all that are concerned, this guy can push a pace. This guy can wrestle. This guy can strike. He can do it all. He's well-rounded. He's experienced. I like a lot of things about the Iron Turtle, Jun-Young Park. The only thing, I wish he put on a little bit more size. I wish he was a little bit more imposing. Man, if he can just hit that weight room a little bit, get those strength and conditioning sessions in, I mean, this guy could be a future top 15 guy, but we don't need to determine that right now. We just need to determine if he's going to beat Brad Tavares or not. And guys, I think he's going to. And I think he might even do it by knockout. Obviously, decision is a more safe pick, but we're not here to make safe picks, my friends. I'm going to go Jun-Young Park, the Iron Turtle, to come out here and knock out Brad Tavares in Vegas. Featured bout in the lightweight division. We got Grant Dawson. He's 21-2, taking on Rafa Garcia, who's 16-3. Currently, they got it. Grant Dawson minus 400. The comeback on Rafa Garcia's plus 300. Y'all know that I'm not really big on Grant Dawson. In fact, one of my best bets of last year was Bobby Green, like plus 350 against Grant Dawson. And I heard people saying that fight was fixed. Like, it doesn't take fucking Einstein to realize that Bobby Green is levels above Grant Dawson when it comes to striking. Like, you don't need to fix a fight to realize that, hey, maybe Grant Dawson just can't, maybe Grant Dawson's striking just isn't very good. Maybe that's what happened in the Bobby Green fight. Not everything is fixed, guys. Like, people will say the most random shit is fixed. I will let you know when some stuff is fixed. Like the Derek Minner and Shai Yilan fight, I knew that right away. But that was the only time when I've truly felt dirty watching a fight where a line moves $2 10 minutes before, or like 2 hours before the fight. And then, the fight goes down how it went. But to say that Bobby Green and Grant Dawson was fixed. Yeah, right, dude. Bobby Green just has way better hands than Grant Dawson. That's all that was. But I'm not a believer in Grant Dawson, man, because when you're hyped up as a top 15 guy, he was top 15 at one point, and you don't have any hands, you don't have any kicks. Like your striking is very elementary. That's a problem, man. People are going to expose that. But luckily for him, here with Rafa Garcia, look, it's not Rafa, it's Rafa. Rafa Garcia is a super tough guy, man. Rafa, he's Mexican. He's going to be really tough to choke out. He's won 4 of his last 5. He seems like he's starting to put it together. But the issue is, man, he's been taken down a bunch in fights. 3 times by Natan Levy, twice by Drakkar Klose. Actually, that's it. So it's less than I thought. It says that his takedown defense is pretty close to 80%. Let me tell you all this. If Rafa Garcia can come out here and stuff takedowns, he is going to win this fight. Grant Dawson has 0 stand-up, at least when you're talking about top 30, level competition. His stand-up is non-existent. It's completely elementary. But what Grant Dawson is really good at is he's one of the, he's 5'10" for the weight class. He's one of these long guys that when he takes your back, I'm sure he feels super strong. When he gets on top of you, you can't get him off you. The guy's a very, very good grappler. I mean, there's no denying that. The guy can grapple his ass off. The thing about it is, man, if Rafa can stuff some takedowns and piece this man up, I think he's got a great chance here. It's just I'm not convinced that happens. And I'm all about fading Grant Dawson. If y'all give me a good reason to fade Grant, I'm down to hear your arguments. I just think that Rafa most likely probably takes him down, gets that body triangle and stalls and wins a boring decision. Probably. I'd be surprised if Dawson finished Rafa. Rafa seems ultra durable, man. I mean, he's Mexican, man. He is ultra durable. But yeah, it's just I really don't like Grant Dawson's style whatsoever, but you have to respect the strength on the mat. However, what I hope happens is that Rafa stuffs takedowns and pieces this man up, because I can't stand watching Grant Dawson. But what I think is going to happen, all emotions and biases aside, I think Grant Dawson probably grinds 2 of the 3 rounds out, and we we hate ourselves for watching the fight. But hopefully something more exciting than that happens, right? I want to give a big shout out to Bet 105 for sponsoring today's episode of the podcast. Y'all, are you guys tired of winning a few bets and getting limited by your sports book? Then do me a favor. Try out Bet 105. Are you tired of laying criminal splits and betting into wide margins? Well, I have the ultimate solution for you guys. Check out my friends over at bet105.eu. Bet105 is a newly relaunched low-juice sportsbook that takes fair limits and welcomes winners. They have fast, easy withdrawals, and creating an account takes only a few seconds. So, guys, head over to bet105.eu and get started today. Deposit only $5 and get a $25 free bet with only a 2-time rollover. Discover the best winner welcome crypto sportsbook experience today. Odds matter. And guys, if you're sick of getting limited by your book because you've been winning too much, these guys don't play that bullshit. So make sure y'all hit up bet105.eu. Tell them I sent you, and you're going to be in very good hands. And shout out Bet105 for supporting today's episode of Half the Battle. Truly means a lot. Thank you. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Cory McKenna. She's 8-3, taking on Julia Polastri, who's 12-4. Currently, they got it. Julia Polastri -135. The comeback on Cory McKenna is +115. Yeah, this one's interesting because, look, when you talk about Julia Polastri, she was on Contender Series twice, but what you got to understand is her first fight on Contender Series was against Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's currently a top 15 fighter. And it was a hard-fought 3-round fight. Obviously, you got to give that to Jasmine, but Polastri fought her ass off. Then she comes back on her second opportunity on Contender Series, and she put it on. That girl got the finish. But her UFC debut, she fought Josephine Knudsen. And y'all know the deal. If you have a striking match with Josephine Knudsen, you're most likely going to lose that, especially when you're talking about the lower levels of women's MMA. But here with the Cory McKenna, there's only one threat to look out for, and that's the takedowns. There's no threat standing whatsoever. You just got to look out for these takedowns and hope that you don't get submitted. And I think that Julia Polastri, hey, the assignment is understood here. We can strike with this girl. We can actually grapple with this girl if we want. The only thing we can't do is end up on our back and get kind of grinded out. But the thing about it is McKenna doesn't have that kind of size and physicality of Jasmine Jasudavicius. McKenna doesn't have that striking of Josephine Knudsen. And I'm not even sold that McKenna is all in. Now, that's narrative, but McKenna seems like a really, really nice person. it doesn't seem like she's got a mean bone in her body. And also she's getting into commentating. Like, seems like she's got a lot of stuff going on outside the cage. She doesn't need this stuff. Whereas you look at Polastri, yo, there's something mean about this chick, okay? Like, you don't show up against someone like Polastri and she'll go ahead and get you up out of there, man. Like, Polastri is no joke. And listen, stuff takedowns and you win this fight. Obviously, I'm not crazy about the price, but I think the price implies that too. Stuff takedowns, you win this fight. So what I think is going to happen, I think Julia Polastri is going to come out here, stuff takedowns, bust up Cory McKenna, and win this fight. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez. He's 17-5, taking on Alex the Great White Morono, who's 24-10. Currently, they got it. Daniel Rodriguez minus 200. The comeback on Morono's plus 170. This is a very, very tough fight to call. Why is that? Because of where both of them are in their respective careers. One thing you got to understand about D-Rod. How old is my boy D-Rod? He's got to be getting up there. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, 37 years old. Going to turn 38 later this year. Morono's only like 30, 33, 34. But Morono's, kind of been looking like ever since the Buckley fight, he's slowed down drastically. That Court McGee fight was super ugly. That Niko Price fight was super ugly. But that being said, to act like you haven't seen a decline in Daniel Rodriguez is ultimate fake news. That is 100% bullshit. And you got to go back and rewatch that Kelvin fight, dude, because my memory of the Kelvin fight versus what actually happened in the Kelvin fight is night and day. Like, my memories of the Kelvin fight was that Daniel Rodriguez had these beautiful combinations, but Kelvin's got this insane chin. That's why he was able to survive. And then Kelvin was just mixing these takedowns. But when I rewatched it, dude, oh my God, Daniel Rodriguez looks so slow compared to how he used to. His defensive reactions aren't there anymore. Yes, he does still have hands, but like they are not as fast as they used to be. And obviously, his takedown defense was never that great. I mean, it was okay at the beginning of his UFC run, but now it's kind of getting like, I don't know, man. It's like he's aging super quick. Well, he is. He's almost 38. He'll be 38 later this year. And then with Morono, he's an average white guy. Like, that's straight up, dude. Like, he's just an average athlete, but he's a well-rounded fighter. He's good everywhere. Throws bombs on the feet, nasty guillotine. If you're not quite on the level, he'll put some volume on you. But the way this fight matches up, this one's really, really interesting because D-Rod historically has the more volume. He's the bigger guy. He's got the reach here, right? And Alex Morono doesn't really shoot too many takedowns. So that part of D-Rod's game is not going to be exposed. The thing about it is D-Rod is a bit slower than he used to be, but Morono's never been a fast guy. So even though D-Rod's, kind of on the decline, he's diminishing a bit, I think he's probably still fast enough to come out here and kind of pick apart Morono, win a decision or get, a knockout. But going into this fight, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be easy money on D-Rod. But when I watched the tape, I was like, yeah, this guy's on his way out. I can't do it. So yeah, sure. Pure pick. I'll go with D-Rod because historically he does have a big speed advantage. But yeah, that Kelvin fight, y'all should rewatch it. You'll see exactly what I'm saying. Like, the reflexes of D-Rod and the speed has diminished drastically. But luckily for him, he's going against the guy in Morono who's never been fast to begin with. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens when Morono gets in his face and starts swinging bombs, because that's what Morono does. He'll spin, throws big overhands, and usually the punches straight down the pipe, the jab, the straight, gets there first, and that's what D-Rod brings to the table. So for that reason, I am going to pick D-Rod, but there's a potential this fight plays out closer than the line indicates. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Josh Fremd. He's 11-6, taking on Abdul Razak Alhassan, who's 12-6. Currently, they got it. Abdul Razak Alhassan minus 148. The comeback on Josh Fremd is everywhere from plus 128 to plus 135. Just depends where you look. Hit up my guys at bet105.eu for the best odds most of the time. And let me say this about this matchup. Razak is one of my all-time favorite knockout artists to watch, man. I am such a big fan of watching Razak. He is an absolute killer. When you talk about how this guy's record is 12-6, right? Well, all 12 of those wins are knockouts, and 11 of them are in the first round. What's not to love about that as a fan? And as a betting man, I have a lot of experience with both of these guys, actually. With Razak from back in the day, max betting him against Sabah Homasi twice. Um, I've even lost betting on Razak before, I think, against Munir Lazez. I bet him against Buckley, and that was the one time where like Razak had a good round after the first. He won the third round nicely, but the first two he got wrestled, you know. But the thing about Razak that we forget is that my boy turns 40. My boy's turning 40 on that next birthday, man. So yeah, we're probably gonna start to see a bit of a decline from Razak. It sucks to say, man, you know, because who doesn't love watching Razak fight, right? And then on the other side with Josh Fremd, I'm very experienced betting this guy too. Firstly, Josh Fremd is 6'5" at middleweight, so he's gonna be towering over Razak. And I feel like Josh Fremd hasn't even shown his full capabilities yet. Because if you go back and you watch his LFA fights, dude, he had this run of 3 fights where he just got these 3 brutal first round knockouts, and then he had to fight RoboCop. You know, it's funny. RoboCop, little fun fact for y'all. RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez has knocked out 4 people on this card, or Josh Fremd, Chidi Njokuani, Brad Tavares, and Jun Young Park. Like that's crazy. Shout out RoboCop. But man, I feel like Josh Fremd hasn't shown what he's capable of, man. When he went on that knockout run in LFA, I was like, yeah, this is the guy to look out for. And I've had mixed results betting on him. You know, I bet on him against Trayshawn Gore, and I felt like that fight was going Josh's way until that unfortunate choke. I bet him against Cedric Dumas at like plus 180. That was one of the best bets of that year. And then the next fight, I bet him against Jamie Pickett at like minus 300 straight. And like Fremd misses weight. He looks terrible, and he's still 30-27 is the guy. But since then, he took that short notice fight against Kopilov. Listen, man, he was like a plus 260 dog there. He wasn't expected to win that. And Kopilov handled him accordingly. But the Petrosky fight was where a lot of people lost faith in Josh Fremd, and understandably so. Listen, there's no fun, easy, nice way to put it. Josh Fremd shit the bed against Andre Petrosky in Denver. That's all there is to say. There's no other way to put it. But that doesn't mean that he's going to shit the bed Saturday night. Like this, I truly think this guy is better than what he's shown inside the octagon. Look, obviously with Razak, you have to worry about anybody that faces Razak might get knocked out in the first round. That's just understood. But anytime Razak's been past the first round, shit has gotten sketchy. The only fight he's won past round 1 is the Claudio Ribeiro fight. He's not in the UFC anymore. Y'all saw what kind of stuff Claudio Ribeiro's on. Like that, there's a reason they cut his ass. Besides that, the Buckley fight in the third round, that's it. That's the only time he's won anything past the first round. Yeah. And then you got this guy Fremd. I know he's coming off a bed-shitting performance, but like historically speaking, this guy trains in Colorado. Actually, Razak does too now, but Fremd is known for having good cardio. Fremd is known for going, 3 rounds hard, and like Fremd can survive this first round. And it's just a question of where's Fremd's confidence at, because that last performance was so bad that like you think like, oh, I can never trust this guy again. But before that performance, I didn't think Fremd was so bad. I thought that Fremd was just, another average middleweight on the roster who can probably stick around. But like the way he's being looked at after the Petrosky fight is like, this guy's the biggest piece of shit we've ever seen in our fucking lives. That's how people are referring to him now. I don't think he's that bad. I think he's a little bit better than people think. But again, when you fight Razak, it's contingent on a couple things. Not getting knocked the fuck out in the first round. And man, I'm telling you, if Fremd can survive that first round, I think he's got a great chance. Look, Razak doesn't have the wrestling of a Petrosky. Like, he's not a D1 wrestler. He's not going to come out here and hump this guy. What you got to be worried about with Razak is Razak sleeping Fremd. The only guy to sleep Fremd is Gregory Hobo Cop. Like I told you, that dude has knocked out 4 dudes on this card. That guy hits. That's a real middleweight too. Razak's a former welterweight, but not to downplay how hard Razak hits. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be ignorant and do some shit like that. You never downplay how hard Razak hits ever. But yeah, I just think that if Fremd can get past the first round, he's got a really good chance. And I might be willing to roll the dice on a small dog shot on Josh Fremd here. So I'm gonna take him. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Chidi and Njokuani. He's 23-10, taking on Jared Nitre and Gooden, who's 23-9. Currently, they got it. Chidi Njokuani minus 162. The comeback on Jared Nitro and Gooden is plus 142. So, for those that don't know, I know Jared Gooden personally. He's been in my house before. Like, you know, this guy, I consider him my friend, and I'm rooting for him, and I'm biased towards him. So I'm just letting y'all know that in advance. But I can definitely break down this fight objectively for sure. So, because I'm very familiar with Chidi Njokuani too. Chidi Njokuani is a guy that I have a long history with. I max bet Chidi Njokuani against Melvin Gillard back in the Bellator days, man. And the thing about Chidi is like he is one of the most technical Muay Thai fighters I have ever seen for MMA. And dude, his Muay Thai is insane. You try to play a distance game on against Chidi Njokuani, you're gonna lose. Like that's just the bottom line. You try to fight this guy at distance, and you are screwed. But the issues that Chidi's had is when people close that distance on him, whether it's in the clinch, whether it's mixing in takedowns and getting on top of him, whether it's just standing up to the bully, Chidi is an incredible hammer, not the best nail. And like Chidi does not like it when you stand up to him. And this is not something new that, y'all noobs have only discovered, with the RoboCop fight or guys, this has been going on since the Koreshkov fight. Y'all old school fans know exactly what I'm referring to when I bring up Chidi Njokuani versus Koreshkov. That's like a classic fight. And what happened was Koreshkov just took him down and pounded him out. And that's always been the blueprint on how to beat Chidi. You cannot fight Chidi long range. So with Jared Gooden, listen, man, Jared Gooden is one of the most durable guys I've ever seen in my life. Okay. He's only been knocked out twice in over 30 fights, and it was against the PFL light heavyweight champion and against this dude who was like 6'6" at middleweight, right? Like those are the only two dudes to stop Jared Gooden, right? Besides that, Jared Gooden has one of the most insane chins I've ever seen in my life. My issue that I've had with Gooden is that how do I know his chin is so good? Because he gets hit too much, right? Jared does get hit a lot. And Jared's takedown defense, although it's gotten better, historically has never been his strongest attribute. But what Jared is really good at is Jared has great volume, cardio, toughness. You start to show a guy like Jared Nitro and Gooden any kind of weakness, like you're starting to feel a bit tired or what he just threw at you starts to hurt. Dude, I'm telling you, how many finishes does Jared have? Let's take a look at this. You want to know how many finishes Jared has? Jared has 19 finishes. So 19 of his 23 wins are inside the distance. Jared is a finisher through and through. So I'm sure Chidi Njokuani watched that Randy Brown fight, and I'm sure that's his game plan. Keep this fight long. Use your jab, front kick him in the face, feint the knees, feint the uppercuts to kind of make him hesitant to level change and keep it long. That's what Chidi has to do. But what Jared has to do is not bite on feints, close the distance right away, pin this guy up against the fence, level change, double leg, get on top of him, start to make him taste his own blood, start to roughneck him a bit, start to throw in some elbows, start to make him uncomfortable. And if Jared does that, he can absolutely come through here as an underdog and win. So to me, this fight, all it comes down to is the distance in which it's played at. I don't see a world where Chidi wins up close. I mean, maybe like an elbow or something. And I don't see a world where Jared wins from long range. So who's going to determine, who's going to dictate the pace and determine which range this fight is contested at? That's the big question for this one. So I can't wait to find out. Obviously, Jared's the homeboy. We're going to root for Jared to close the distance. Get this guy, level change, get this guy down, put an elbow through his forehead, and get your second UFC win in a row. Hopefully your second UFC performance bonus in a row too. I'd love to see that. But you have to be very aware of the dangers that Chidi brings to the table. He's super long, super experienced, and yeah, very dangerous guy. You gotta respect Chidi. But if Jared can close that distance on him, I think he's got a great chance for this upset. So I'm gonna pick him. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between CJ Vergara, he's 12-5, taking on Ramazan Temirov, who's 17-2. Currently, they got it. Ramazan Temirov minus 310. The comeback on CJ Vergara's plus 260. Yo, if y'all haven't watched tape on this dude, Ramazan Temirov, I'm telling y'all right now, I cannot wait for this guy's UFC debut. Like, he literally fights exactly how I want to watch someone fight. Like, when you watch some of his earlier fights, the disregard he has for his opponents. He's just coming out there throwing spin after spin after spin. I'm not talking about a little cute spinning back fist either. I'm talking about spinning heel kicks to the dome, to the body. Like, this dude is nasty. And you fast forward to his most recent fights and the kind of finishes this guy has, the kind of killer instinct. And then I saw this one fight where he got dropped. Dude, it was like when he got dropped, it was like he got pissed off and something woke up in him. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get you back for that. And boy, did he get that dude back for that. I like everything about this guy, Ramazan Temirov, from outside the UFC perspective. The thing you got to worry about with a debutant is the potential of the debut stunt. We've seen it so many times where guys underperforming that UFC debut. They've never been on the stage. The bright lights are a little too bright. And they just kind of, it's not even about what their opponent did right. It's about what they did wrong. It's about the fact that they just kind of didn't let it go in that debut. That's the only thing you got to be worried about here. And on the other side with Vergara, look, Vergara is just a tough, well-rounded guy. There's nothing else to say about Vergara. He's not an exceptional athlete. There's nothing that really sticks out about him. It's just that if you don't have 3-round cardio, if you're not quite UFC ready, CJ Vergara is going to expose that. The thing about it is, I think that Ramazan is UFC ready. And the only way he loses this fight is a debut stunt, literally. If he comes in here with the same confidence he has in every single fight I've watched of his, I think he might actually be the first guy to knock out CJ Vergara inside the octagon. But the thing about it is, Vergara is ultra durable. Vergara is a super tough guy to finish. So, I mean, I can also see it going the distance, but yeah, I love the aggression from Temirov. I just need to see it inside the octagon. The reason I'm talking kind of, I mean, I'm not that hesitant. I'm telling you, I'm picking Temirov. I'm picking Temirov. But the reason why I'm not like, oh yeah, this guy, I'm parlaying this guy, I'm laying this 300 straight, is because I've been burnt so many damn times with these UFC debuts where, like, Tyler Santos against Mara Romero Barella. Tyler Santos fights the worst person on the roster, Morella Barella, and loses a split decision. Not because Morella Barella did something extravagant or spectacular, because Tyler refused to throw. Later on, a few fights later, Tyler arguably beats Valentina Shevchenko. Look at Daniel Zellhuber against Trey Ogden. It's not about what Trey Ogden did right. Zellhuber refused to throw. You know what I'm saying? Look at him now having that fight of the year candidate with Esteban Ribovics, right? Like, so I'm just saying, as long as Ramazan Temirov doesn't pull some debut stunt where he's hesitant to throw, I think he's going to whoop CJ Vergara's ass, man. So yeah, I'm going Ramazan Temirov to come out here and impress in his UFC debut. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Jonathan JSP Pearce. He's 14-6, taking on Pat Sabatini, who's 18-5. Currently, they got it. JSP minus 150. The comeback on Pat Sabatini is plus 130. This is a tough one for me to call. Reason being is this. Pat Sabatini is a very good grinder. This guy is a nasty wrestler, super heavy on top. But the way to beat him is to go out there and just put it on him right away. You have to catch this guy. But the people that caught him, Diego Lopez, that dude like catches almost everyone he fights, right? And then Damon Jackson, that one was kind of a suspect loss. I'm not gonna lie, but on the other side, the way that Pat Sabatini lost to Damon Jackson is the exact way that Jonathan Pearce lost to Joe Lozon in his debut. Got pounded out from background. So it's happened to both guys. You know what I'm saying? The thing that makes this tough for me is that I think JSP's got way better volume than Sabatini on the feet, but I'm just not sure if he can keep Sabatini off of him. So this one, I'm not sure about. I really am not. Like, I think I want to go JSP because he's more well-rounded, but like, is it going to surprise me one bit if Sabatini grinds this man out? No, it is not. It really isn't. It really isn't. Like, but like I said, I guess I'll lean JSP. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's got more volume, et cetera, et cetera. But Sabatini is one of those sticky guys that you start to count him out. You start to be like, oh, he's got no chin. And then he's sniffing your crotch. Then you look at the clock and like 12 minutes have passed. So you just have to be very careful with those kind of guys. But I'll lean JSP to outwork him. I'm not confident. And speaking of not confident, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Niko Price. He's 16-7, taking on Themba Gorimbo, who's 13-4. Currently, they got it. Themba Gorimbo minus 315. The comeback on Niko Price is plus 265. So before I watched tape on this fight, I was like, oh yeah, Themba is gonna smoke this guy. And he still might, but like when I watch tape on Themba, yo, I just gotta let y'all know this Themba dude is not who y'all think he is. Okay, listen, I love the story too. It's heartwarming that this guy, you built a water well for his people in Zimbabwe. The Rock got attention of that story, and now he's backing them. And you gotta love stuff like that. It's heartwarming. The guy gives back, all that. But I'm not here to talk about how good of a person someone is. I'm here to talk about what kind of fighter they are. And when I watched the tape on Themba Gorimbo, I'm not impressed. I am really not impressed at all. Let me just break it down. UFC debut against AJ Fletcher, who's no longer in the UFC. AJ Fletcher whooped his ass. Take some time off, to get better, which he did. He's made a lot of improvements, but look at the guys he's been fighting. Takashi Sato, not in the UFC. And then he smoked that Pete Rodriguez guy. Guys, does Pete Rodriguez even have a UFC win? Oh, yeah, he does, against Mike Jackson. Excuse me. You know what I'm saying? And then the most recent fight against Ramiz Brahimaj. I don't want to talk shit about Ramiz. I like Ramiz. I've played Call of Duty with Ramiz before. He's a super, super nice guy. I like Ramiz, but like, just being honest, Ramiz is a guy with a losing UFC record. Ramiz is a guy that's first round or bust. Ramiz is a guy that's not known for his hands, that's not known for his cardio, is known for he can either submit you in the first round or he gasses out and loses. And that Ramiz fight with Themba was one of the ugliest fights I've ever seen. When I watched it the other night, I was like, oh my God, this is the guy they're pushing? And then to take it a step further, because people act like Themba Gorimbo is this young prospect. He's this 23-year-old African prospect. Guys, he's 33 years old. He turns 34 in a couple months. Not that that's an issue, but when I'm talking about 33 and 34-year-olds, I want them to already kind of like be close to a finished product. And like, if this is his close to a finished product and people are talking about this guy being a future top 15 guy, yeah, okay, bro. That ain't happening. I'm just telling y'all right now, like, this guy is not who people think he is. When I think of some of my favorite African fighters, Razak Alhassan, Francis Ngannou, Dricus du Plessis, et cetera, there's a certain physicality. There's a certain one-hitter quitter. There's a certain Sodiq use. There's a certain speed, athleticism. I don't see that with Themba, guys. I really don't. I think he's slow. Yeah, he was stronger than Ramiz Brahimaj, but like, people are talking like this guy's going to be a top 10 guy. No, he's not. No, he's not. Again, I'm not one to want to diminish someone's aspirations or try to talk shit about him as a human. I'm not that guy. Like, I love what he's doing for his people. It's amazing. And the fact that you're using your platform for good, I'm all about it. But I'm telling y'all, this guy is not who y'all think he is as a fighter. The issue is he's fighting a completely washed up fighter in Niko Price. But like, when you compare resumes, okay, Themba knocked out Pete Rodriguez. Niko Price knocked out Randy Brown. Like, Niko Price knocked out Tim Means. Niko Price knocked out Alan Juban. Niko Price knocked out Alex Morono. Like, you just cannot compare their resumes. Niko Price has fought way better guys. Niko Price went to a decision with Michel Pereira, where Michel Pereira was gassing out in that bad in that last round, and Niko Price won that last round. You think that Themba Gorimbo would win a single round against Michel Pereira? I don't. It's just, what's tough is that Niko is getting to that point. So Niko's only 2 years older than him. Niko's 35, Themba's 33, but Niko is a 35 with a lot of mileage, man. Niko's a 35 that's come into some fights with 2 knee braces on. Niko's a 35 that's been knocked out in under a minute before. So it's really tough. It's really, really tough, because it's like Themba's catching him at a great time. But Themba is not good. He's just not very good, guys. I'm dead serious. This is not me being disrespectful. Please pull up that Brahimaj fight. I urge you to do so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. He's not that guy. The thing is, I'm not convinced this is the spot to fade, because Niko is so washed that it might not even matter here. It might not even matter. Themba might just come out here, get some takedowns, some top control. Niko likes playing off his back, because in the past, he's got some great knockouts off his back. Y'all saw that hammer fist from bottom against Randy Brown, the up kick against James Vick. Like, this dude is nasty off his back, man. I'd love to sit here and pick Niko Price via hashtag hammer fist from bottom. I'm just not convinced. I do think Themba's catching him at the right time, but like, for me, this is dog or pass. I know this is a smash spot for Themba for a lot of people, not for me. I don't think he's that guy. But what I want to figure out is this the fade spot or is the next fight the fade spot? Because there's about to be an insane generational wealth fade spot against Themba Gorimbo coming up. And it's just, I don't want to plant my flags on a washed up fighter like Niko Price. I really don't. I think Themba probably gets past this one. But the thing about it is I also don't want to miss out if this is the spot either. So like if I were to bet this fight, it would either be one unit on Niko or pass altogether. But man, I'm telling y'all, that spot is AJ Fletcher finished. Who the fuck is AJ Fletcher? Who has he fought since AJ Fletcher? Nobody. People talk about, oh, but The Rock backs him. Therefore, the UFC backs him. Therefore, guys, The Rock isn't backing this guy because of how good he is as a fighter. The Rock could give a fuck about how this guy fights. The Rock is backing him because of how good of a person this guy is. I mean, yeah, you love what he's doing for his community, but we're not here to, this ain't the Salvation Army podcast. This is the Half the Battle podcast. You know, we're here to not bullshit about people's abilities when it comes to fighting. And I'm not going to be one to bullshit y'all about that. But the issue is, I'd love to pick Niko Price via hammer fist from bottom. But Niko, how many years have I been saying that Niko's washed for now? Let me look, because I've said it since the Alex Oliveira fight. What year was that? 2021. I've been thinking this guy's been looking washed since 2021. I bet on Phil Rowe against him. I actually picked Niko against Alex Morono that last fight because Alex was looking washed in that Court McGee fight. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll lean Themba. I think timing is everything, but betting wise, dog or pass. And I implore y'all to go and watch that Themba versus Brahimaj fight so y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about. Please do. Yeah, let's move on. Now, next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Chris Barnett. He's 23-8, taking on Junior Tafa, who's 5-3. Currently, they got it. Junior Tafa minus 400. They come back on Chris Barnett's plus 300. So the thing about this fight is that with Junior Tafa, to beat this guy, you must take this man down. And the thing about Chris Barnett is that he's never taken anyone down, and he barely shoots for takedowns either. And another thing, man, when you're talking about the heavyweight division, because a lot of people say Junior Tafa could drop to 205, and I don't disagree with that. But like Chris Barnett's obese, man. Chris Barnett's 5'8" at heavyweight, and he's missed for heavyweight before. And like, he's also 38 years old. I think people don't know that or realize that Chris Barnett's 38. He's not some kid. He's not some prospect, guys. And the age difference here is 10 years. Junior Tafa is 10 years younger. Junior Tafa is 6'3" to Barnett's 5'8". It just comes down to Tafa not doing something stupid and ending up on his back. If Tafa fights long range, he's going to knock Chris Barnett the you-know-what out. I mean, you even look at Chris Barnett's fight with not Chase Sherman, but Jake Collier. I mean, Jake Collier was looking like a K1 striker the first round. Jake Collier, I've never seen Jake Collier so arrogant in a fight before, where he's like smiling while he's striking. Like, this is like the easiest fight I've ever had. And then he gasses himself out from whooping on this dude, you know? It was crazy, man. And then the spinning kick against John Vellante. I mean, John Vellante is a fat retired dude, so who cares? The thing about Tafa, the reason I'm not laying the -4, even though I do think Tafa probably starches him in one, is because Tafa is completely clueless on his back. If, let's say, Barnett doesn't even take him out. Let's say Tafa throws a kick and falls, and Barnett gets on top of him. Is that the end of the round? Is that the end of the fight? Like, then what? You know, because I think Tafa skips jiu-jitsu class, skips wrestling practice, is one of those guys that only shows up for striking sparring. You know, y'all that train know exactly. There's one of those guys in every gym. You know, I think Junior Tafa's that guy, but his striking is damn good, man. And I think that Chris Barnett's going to give him the fight he wants. Chris Barnett likes to stand and bang. Chris Barnett's been knocked out by lesser men before. And I think Saturday night, Junior Tafa is going to come out here and starch Chris Barnett. So, yeah, I'm going Tafa here. The next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Dan Argueta. He's 9-2, taking on Cody Haddon, who's 7-1. Currently, they got it. Cody Haddon -190. The comeback on Argueta is +165. Good fight. Haddon really impressed me in that Contender Series fight, man, because he was in there with a prospect who I thought was really good. What was that kid's name? Billy Brand. And like, if you listen to Dana's post fight press conference on that episode, he was mentioning how like the matchmakers were like Sean and Mick were like, dude, you have to watch this kid, Billy Brand. Like, they were super high on Billy Brand. And to see the way Cody Haddon treated Billy Brand, I was surprised. I was expecting like a 3-round war where these guys are getting after it. And like Cody Haddon just goes out there and smokes Billy Brand. I was like, God damn, like this kid is fucking good. This guy's well-rounded. I remember when Australian MMA used to be a joke where it was like, yeah, these guys can strike, but they got no ground game. They got no wrestling. Dude, the guys from Australia now can do everything. The jiu-jitsu scene there is emerging. This kid is well-rounded. This kid's fought good competition. This guy went to a very competitive decision with Steve Erceg back in the day. And then on the other side with Argueta is a jacked dude. Argueta is a very strong grappler. Argueta can go out there and, man, he can pace you when it comes to the grappling. The issue with Argueta is that, you know, he will slow down in fights. Like, have you seen the size of this dude's biceps? Like, he needs air to get to those muscles. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think his stand-up is anything special either. You know, in 11 pro fights, he's only got 2 knockout wins. And I think that one of them for sure is a ground and pound stoppage against Morono. And then his debut, he won via knockout. I'm not sure. That was probably a ground and pound stoppage. I haven't seen his debut. But yeah, this guy, what I'm trying to say is Argueta is not a threat on the feet whatsoever. Cody Haddon is. Cody Haddon's absolutely a threat on the feet. And Cody Haddon can club and sub guys. But although Cody Haddon is the more well-rounded guy here, I would say that Argueta probably does have a wrestling advantage here. So Argueta can probably get some takedowns. The thing about it is a couple takedowns doesn't win you fights anymore. Like, you can't just stall and win fights anymore. I mean, it depends who's judging, right? Because these judges are so inconsistent. One day they'll favor the lay and pray guy. The next day they won't, you know? So it just depends who's judging. But I think that Cody Haddon's going to make this guy work, period, point blank. I'm not confident enough to lay the price because, again, UFC debut, and you got to make sure this guy's not going to pull a debut stunt. And he's also been to Vegas twice in like a short span. Like, what's that jet lag like for you going from Australia to Vegas to Australia to Vegas? I'm curious, but I do think he's got the higher ceiling here. That doesn't always matter. But I think he can put a pace on Argueta and just be the more well-rounded guy here and have the bigger moments and win this fight. And last but not least, in the flyweight division, this is an absolute banger. We got Clayton Carpenter. He's 7-0, taking on Lucas Rocha, who's 17-1 currently. They got it. Clayton Carpenter, -205. The comeback on Lucas Rocha is +175. I love everything about this fight. This might be one of my favorite fights on the entire card, guys. First of all, y'all got to go back and watch Clayton Carpenter's Dana White's Contender Series fight, but don't just watch the fight. Rewind a little bit and pull up his pre-fight interview on Contender Series. He like reminded me of like Rory McDonald the way he was talking. He sounded like a straight up serial killer, like cold, heartless. I was like, God damn, like, and he sounded so confident. He's like, me coming to the UFC now, like, these guys are gonna have to catch up. Like, he was saying shit like that. I was like, okay. Like, for a young, he was like 25 at the time. I was like, damn, okay, he's super confident. He fought Edgar Chairez. Y'all know Edgar Chairez. He's got a good fight against Taira, a good fight against Josh Van, and a good fight against Clayton Carpenter, man. So this kid, let's talk about Carpenter, right? So Carpenter, he's got a lot of jiu-jitsu experience, you know, in pure jiu-jitsu. He's got like karate experience, pure karate. But when it comes to MMA experience, he doesn't have that much, but what he's done, I've liked. However, he comes into the UFC and he's got all these impressive highlights outside the UFC, but I'm saying he comes to Contender Series and that's the first time he's ever actually fought someone that fought back. And like Edgar Chairez, there were moments in that fight where Edgar Chairez beat the living shit out of Clayton Carpenter. I mean, one of his eyes was fully closed with the mouse over it, with a cut. Like, dude, Edgar Chairez beat his ass for parts of that first round. But I like the fact that Clayton Carpenter had to show a lot of heart. Now I know this guy is super tough. This guy can overcome adversity. And then the next fight against Juan Camilo Ronderos, a dude who tested positive for cocaine, by the way. Clayton Carpenter gets taken down in that first round. Now, granted, he was going for a guillotine, but he got taken down against, you know, not the best competition there. So the reason I'm bringing this stuff up is because I'm a firm believer in paying dues. And yeah, he's paid dues in jiu-jitsu, he's paid dues in karate, but you got to pay dues in MMA and cage fighting too. And yeah, the Edgar Chairez gave him a run for his money. Juan Camilo Ronderos was fighting tough until that beautiful submission by Clayton Carpenter. And look, I think the kid's good, man. I think he's ultra durable. He's tough. He's got cardio. His ground game's nasty. And in this fight, he's going to have a big physicality advantage. One difference between this fight and the Edgar Chairez fight was Edgar Chairez was the much larger guy. Whereas here, we're going to talk about Lucas in a second, but Clayton is going to look like 2 weight classes above this guy. Reason being is, so this dude, Lucas Roca, let's talk about him. He's 17-1. This guy's a former strawweight. I'm not fucking joking. I know that's something we say to, like, you know, you talk about a small fighter. Oh, he's a former strawweight. No, this guy really is a former strawweight. He's tiny, but man, he might be small in stature, but this guy's got big brass balls, man. When you watch this dude, Lucas Roca fight, you can't just watch his Contender Series fight. You got to watch his regional fights too, because there's a common theme in all of his fights. Firstly, this guy seems like in 5-round fights, he is going to excel, because I don't know what it is, but every fight in the first round, he's like getting his ass kicked. He's getting taken down easily. He's getting dropped, the whole bit. It's like, damn, like Roca almost has to overcome adversity to wake up. But the thing about him is, man, he's still there the entire time, marching forward, pushing. And he starts to get nasty with his combinations. He gets creative. He's got knees. He's got kicks, big punches. He'll rip to the body. He'll spin. There's really a lot to like about him. The only thing is that you have to accept the fact that this guy gets his ass kicked every single fight and he comes back. But it's not like it was a 1 or 2 time thing. This is like a multi-time thing for Lucas Roca. That's his style, man. Slow starter. And then you show him 1 ounce of weakness and he will close the show, man, straight up. So, I mean, I think Clayton Carpenter is going to be way bigger than this guy, just like everyone's way bigger than this guy. And I think Carpenter is going to have his way with him first round, probably first 2 rounds. Thing about it is, if Carpenter does not finish this guy, you have to pray that he keeps grinding on him, because Lucas Roca is going to get back up, is going to be in your face, is going to start ripping to the body. He's like a little mosquito, man. He's like, it's like you want to catch this guy, but he's flying all around you, man. You know, it's like you step on the cockroach and it's still alive. It's still moving like that. That's Lucas Roca, dude. He's a really tough guy to deal with. I know a lot of sharp people that I respect are super big on Carpenter in the spot. They're thinking this is hammer time. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong at all. And I know why they got to that conclusion, because when you watch Roca's fights, he gets his ass whooped every single fight, but he also comes back every single fight. He also pretty much finishes almost every single fight. So yeah, he's tough, but I do think that the physicality of Carpenter is going to be the difference here. And whether Carpenter finishes or grinds out the first 2 rounds and kind of coasts / survives the third, I think he probably wins this decision. It's hard to pick a finish because this dude Roca seems really tough to finish. In his 1 loss, he was finished, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that. Yeah, he was finished in his 1 loss. Back in 2019, he got knocked out. What weight class was that at? Oh, strawweight. At least he's not cutting that weight anymore, right? But yeah, I mean, it's not going to surprise me to see Carpenter get a knockout, because like I said, Roca has been dropped in multiple fights. He's been slammed on his head. He gets his back taken all the time. So yeah, we could see a rear naked choke from Carpenter. We could see a knockout, but like, you can't bank on the finish, because this kid, Lucas, is so damn tough, man. He will hang around. He really will. So I'm going to lean towards Carpenter by decision. Strongly grind out the first 2, survive the last, and win this decision. But the finish happens, I'm not going to be surprised either. But I'm excited to see both these guys, man. And hopefully, if Roca loses this fight, I'd like to see him get like that CJ Vergara fight next or something like that, because Roca's really exciting, man. And then Carpenter's got a very bright future. He's ultra talented, but I want to see him pay dues more. So, man, I can't wait for that fight. Now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 98, my friends? Besides the main event, I think the fight to watch is actually, I just talked about it, the first fight of the night between Clayton Carpenter and Lucas Roca. You got the undefeated phenom, Clayton Carpenter, who's 7-0, taking on the 17-1 Lucas Roca. When's the last time you saw someone make a UFC debut with a 17-1 record? And the way these two fight, lots of finishes between both of them. They're going to get after it, man. And this is either going to be a war or someone's going out. So yeah, for that reason, Carpenter versus Roca is my fight to watch. Who is my fighter to watch? That's a very good question, my friends. I think that my fighter to watch, I normally don't like to go with the main event, but I'm going to here. I think it's Brandon Raw Dog Royval, man. Like, this is a really interesting spot. You're coming off a win against Morono in Mexico. You're ranked #1 in the world. You have the chance to hand Taira his first ever L. Like, are you going to do it or not? Because Taira, man, like I said earlier on the show, I think he is a future champion, at least a future title challenger. but that doesn't mean it has to be now when he's 24. Why not when he's like 28 or something? So I want to see if Royval is really the #1 guy in the world or not. And this fight will let me know that. So for that reason, Royval is my fighter to watch. So with my friends, we did it. It's going on this Saturday night live at the Apex. Do me a huge favor. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Please leave me a comment. Share if you feel so inclined. You can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. Also on Twitter at Half the Battle HQ. I'm on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod. Make sure y'all check out my friends at bet105.eu. And remember, they're not going to limit you for winning. So just hit them up and tell them that I sent you. I hope you guys have a great time with the fights. And oh yeah, Wednesday is my birthday. So y'all really want to show me love on Wednesday? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Leave me comments, likes, all that. It's very, very much appreciated. Y'all know where I'm going to be Wednesday. I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu, get Shark Tanked, get my ass whipped, and then I'm going to be hanging out at the Brazilian Steakhouse all day. So until the next time, let's cash these bets.